Welcome aboard! You're listening to Adventures in Knowledge. Join our conductor, the ever-curious Brittany Carl.
Today's episode is about lowland eastern gorillas and one of the most deadly things to humans. Now, originally this episode was supposed to be focused on lowland eastern gorillas, but instead this episode is going to be primarily focused on the most deadly thing to humans and other mammals called prions. So let's get started first on lowland eastern gorillas. To begin, they are native to the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. They are an umbrella species, which means they protect the biodiversity of their habitat, such as the animals, plants, and even the economics of the humans around them. Currently, there are less than 6,000 of them in the world. There are things we can do to help them, such as working with or donating to the Gorilla Foundation, World Wildlife Fund, and Rainforest Alliance. You can also buy sustainable wood and FSC-verified forest products. FSC just stands for Forest Stewardship Council, and they basically just make forest products that are sustainable and can be used multiple times so that the forest doesn't die out. If we don't make these changes, we could lose 97% of eastern lowland gorillas by the year 2054. Their biggest threats are humans, us, leopards, and crocodiles, although it does take a very bold leopard or crocodile to actually attack gorillas. The reasons humans are such a big danger is that we cause a lot of habitat degradation, specifically due to mining and also human fighting. Plus, there's also poaching, and also some people hunt them for wild meat, which, and also, it's not like I'm against trying different kinds of food, but anything that's closely related as a primate species, just, no, definitely not. And you will see why scientifically that's a definitely not. But I've eaten like other things, like rattlesnake was pretty good, alligator was kind of boring. It's also this hunting of them for wild meat that brought me to the thoughts of prions, and you'll see why I connected that. Hello, sorry for the interruption, but small thing, you can now buy my lowland eastern gorilla painting on redbubble.com in backpack, notebook, and mug form. Just remember to look under the shop Art by Brittany, spell it Brittney, and you can also buy art prints on artpal.com under Carl Art, Carl with a K, and yeah, so that's it. You can buy my art, and you can buy other people's art, and back to the educational stuff. Bye. If you take nothing else out of this episode, the biggest lesson should be never ever eat A, your own species, B, a closely related one, or C, the brain or spinal cords of any species. Just a bad idea. This leads me to prion diseases. There are 3 types: acquired, spontaneous, or inherited. All of them are untreatable and fatal, which is why they freak me out. Prions are proteins that fold in abnormal ways and lead to chain reactions where other proteins fold abnormally until it leads to cell death, usually within nerve cells, and eventually the death of the entire individual. The inherited or sporadic prion diseases are more like Alzheimer's, or more seriously, there's also CJD, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which accounts for 87% of all prion disease cases. It's bad, but extremely rare. The first recognized acquired prion disease is called Kuru. It affected the Foray people of Papua New Guinea. The main symptoms were tremors, which in the local language sounds a lot like Kuru, as well as pathological bursts of laughter, which is why it was also known as laughing sickness. Now, this was first observed in 1951 and 53 by anthropologists Burnt and Burnt. Also, for those who don't know what anthropology is, I totally get that. I didn't know what it was until I was looking at college majors. It is the study of humans. It is the most social of natural sciences and the most natural of social sciences, depending on what branch of anthropology you're studying. Most people know archaeology, which is a branch of anthropology, but there's also biological, linguistic, and cultural anthropology. Just to explain what an anthropologist is, these were cultural anthropologists. Now back to Kuru. It was first described in 1957, and a Dr. Karlston Gajduszek won the Nobel Prize in 1976 for realizing how it came about and why the Foray people were being affected by it. Now, what he determined was that the Foray people are cannibalistic. They basically just eat their dead. It's part of their culture. A hypothesis is that one of the Foray people likely had a sporadic or inherited form of prion disease, and when the other people ate them, that led to the acquired Kuru disease, and obviously as they kept eating individuals, it just spread. This is why you should never eat your own kind or a similar kind, and definitely don't be a cannibal. The most well-known of acquired prion diseases is actually mad cow disease, which had breakouts in 1986 in Great Britain and 1993 in the United States and Canada. It also had a few other times as well. Now, the reason that mad cow disease came about was because farmers were feeding cows cow. Have you ever seen a cow eat meat, let alone another cow? No, you haven't, because they eat grass. They eat grass. Now, the reason the mad cow came about, besides feeding cow, is that cows can have also inherited or sporadic prion disease, such as bovine spongiform encephalopathy, which likely one of those cows did. Another type of prion disease affects deer and elk. It's chronic wasting disease, CWD. There are now regulations, however, so farmers have regulations where they can no longer feed like a cow, that sort of thing. So that's to prevent mad cow from ever happening again. Also, for the wasting disease, the CDC actually recommends that if you're hunting elk or deer, 1, never ever eat one that you've already found dead, and 2, you can get the meat checked out for wasting disease before eating it, just to be safe. Both mad cow disease and wasting disease can affect unrelated species, such as humans, by eating their meat. There is an exception though, scrapie disease, which affects sheep and goats and has been observed since 1732, so these things have definitely been around for a while, does not appear to affect humans. It got its name because the sheep or goats will compulsively scrape their fleece on trees, rocks, pretty much anything that they can get to, and it can infect an entire flock. Other reasons I find prions terrifying, besides everything I've just said, is they are radiation, heat, and disinfectant resistant. On top of that, they do not create an autoimmune response, so there's no fever to indicate something's wrong. And they can even be dormant for 18 months to 5 years before symptoms show up. And they're smaller than the smallest virus, so they're really hard to detect. To comfort you though, they only affect about 1 in 1 million people. They are extremely rare. And since I've freaked you out with prions, let's go to some fun facts about gorillas. Just get a little less serious for a moment. All right, fun facts about gorillas. 1, they eat plants and insects. They live in groups. Also, when they're young, and even when they're a little bit older, they like to play by wrestling, which is, a lot like puppy play or even human siblings. And they sometimes greet each other by touching noses, which I would not advise you do as a human because that would just be stupid. First of all, gorillas take it as a threat if you're looking straight in their eyes. And also, I just don't know how a gorilla would react if you touched your nose to their nose, and I'd advise against it. So keep learning, because the more you know, the less likely you are to be a short-sighted fool, and the more likely you are to be kinder and more understanding of others. So keep learning, and see you next time. Bye.